first of all, I just wanted to say, thank you for your service to everyone who served in this community, and I'm very honored to be invited for today's conversation. So thank you. Today's conversation, I'm just going to walk through of Taskray, which is the #1 post-sale management solution in Salesforce. So again, my name is Alex Medrano. I actually been at Taskray for 3 years now. I'm the sales engineer, but I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for around 7 years now. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to be a resource as well, however I can help. So I actually started in tech as an SDR. So, I came in as an SDR. I was very interested in kind of how technology worked, the back end and things like that. So I ended up switching to kind of a sales engineer role. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you have any Taskray questions, reach out to sales@taskray.com. We're always happy to collaborate with the team. So what is Taskray? So Taskray, think of Taskray as what happens when an opportunity goes close won, right? So you're working on an opportunity. How do you actually onboard your customer? And onboarding can be from installation, implementations, anything it takes to get the customer up and running, right? So what does that project looks like, those steps that we need to onboard our customers successfully. And then we can hand them off to, CS, customer success, on the other side. So it's that bridge between pre-sales and post-sales team. Now, we are 100% native solution. So what does that mean? So in the back end, we are a group of custom objects that work together and are surfaced in a Taskray UI. Now, we do help our customers solve a handful of problems, right? So we first help them standardize their process by creating templates and creating automation. How do we create those templates into projects? We also make sure each person or team member is able to have the right task in their name, making sure take the guesswork out of that project management within Taskray. We also provide in-app and out-of-the-box reports and dashboards, but because we are Salesforce native, you can always leverage Salesforce reporting and dashboards as well. So if you're familiar with how to create Salesforce reports, you can do so with Taskray objects. So for today's demonstration, I'm just going to walk through kind of our main use case that we see. And again, I'm not going to take too long demoing today just because I want to get you guys hands-on. But things like, hey, what happens when that opportunity gets close won? How do we create that project? How do we actually work on that project? How do we report on it, our lining components? And then if you want to find more information, how do you access or support site? So with that said, let's jump in. So let's say a customer tells you, or your organization tells you that they're having problems getting their post-sale projects launched, right? So which is creating a lag between the deal closing and the customer adopting their products and services. So with Taskray, we're actually curate a project from either one or a set of templates, depending on either opportunity data, so like stage being close won, or even opportunity line items, right? So, hey, these are the products that we're selling. We need to make sure we are implementing those products accordingly, all within the opportunity goes close won. Now, by leveraging lining components, so right here we have the Taskray status, but you can also bring in things like the Kanban board or even that Gantt chart type of view. By leveraging those, once a project is created, sales and other teams can still monitor the status and progress of that project and interact with that project as well. And because we are Salesforce native, you can bring notes or any other fields or data from the opportunity to the project and ensure seamless handoff to get every customer to a great start. So now that we have the new customer project, now it's time for the post-sale team to get to work. So how do we actually work on this project? So we all know everyone likes to visualize things differently, work on different schedules, different times. So Taskray provides different options to visualize the work of this project. So we pretty much thought of every way a person will want to interact with Taskray. So first we have the My Work view. So think of this as the end user one-stop shop. Hey, show me what I have overdue. What do I have to today? If I need to interact with Taskray tasks, items, or even complete those items, I'm able to do so. The next tab, we have the All Work tab. So think of this as that project management suite. So the first view we have in All Work will be the plan view, which is our most popular view. So which is that Gantt chart-like view to visualize timeline, dependencies, duration. And with our drag and drop functionality, you're able to interact with that project or even assign tasks to the right user. Our second most popular view will be our Kanban view. And think of the Kanban board as your task being sticky notes in a whiteboard, right? So you're able to move tasks to different status or even complete items as you see fit. We also have a row view and a calendar view. But the last view I'm going to focus on will be our spreadsheet view. So if you want to ensure efficiency and maybe update multiple tasks at the same time, a spreadsheet view makes it super user-friendly to do so. So in this case, I'm just completing, mass completing tasks within this project. So that way, users and project managers have a clear understanding of who's doing what without missing the deadlines, all within a single source of truth. But once we have been working on our projects, maybe management and executives would also want to keep track of key items, right? We think about statuses, measure overall project health, and make sure that their business is scalable. Now, by going to the performance tab, this is our in-app reporting. Within the performance tab, there's two main reports. First is the portfolio view, which brings in a list of set of projects in surface important data such as start date, progress, and date status. And by making this view configurable, right? So if I want to configure those columns, whatever is most relevant for me, I'll be able to have that bird's eye view as the manager that I need. But if I want to dig in deeper to one or multiple projects at the same time, on the right-hand side, you'll see this 7 popped up. This is for us to start measuring a quick project health summary, right? So what do I need to bring to my attention? How many tasks are in this project? How many have been completed? Is there anything overdue, estimated, actual time spent on these projects? Where are milestones or key tasks in completion? Or if there's any task or risk, or how many tasks are assigned to each of the individual team members. But as a business, as we continue to scale, maybe we also want to make sure we continuously improve our process and our templates. So by going on our second in-app report, which is our template performance view, I'm able to start measuring the effectiveness of those templates, right? And look at insights like, hey, how many projects have been created from this template? How many have been completed? our targeted duration in average versus our averages, right? So we estimated these projects to take 32 days, but it's actually on average taking 35, 40 days. Do we need to go back and reassess our templates? And then it also allows us to start identifying trends, right? So maybe there's a specific task that continues to be overdue over and over again. So maybe I want to go back and readjust templates accordingly. So these are our examples of in-app reporting, but you can also leverage Flow or Salesforce reports and dashboards for more in-depth reporting within Taskray data. So within the Taskray UI, all kinds of users from the end user, the project manager, to the executive have the necessary tools and data to get their customers up and running, as their business grows. Now, not everyone's at their desk and not everyone likes to work within the UI. So Taskray provides a wide variety of lining components. So for that, I'm going to go into the homepage and allows me to interact with Taskray wherever I am in Salesforce. So we have three main lining components in the homepage. The first one is my work. Again, that one-stop shop of what do I have overdue, what do I have due today, interact with my tasks, or even complete those items without leaving the homepage. And this is super mobile friendly too. So if you have team in the fields, on the go, they can go and log in to Salesforce, their Salesforce app, and have the Taskray task right in front of them. The second lining component will be Taskray projects. And maybe I want to keep track of my active projects and the progress, the status, or have that quick snapshot or health overview of that project of where are we in our milestones, start date, end date, and any other task overview, how many tasks are completed, prioritized, finished, and estimated versus actual time spent in the project. Now, lastly, because we are Salesforce native, you are able to leverage the platform and the tools like Chatter, right? So either at a Taskray project level or at a task level, you can collaborate with team members or even Experience Cloud or community users. So these are only three of the many lining components that are designed to improve the team's communication, collaboration, and efficiency wherever they are in Salesforce. Now you might be wondering, hey, how do I get Taskray? How do I maybe play around with Taskray? Or if I want to just learn more about Taskray, where do I go? So you can access our support site by just going to support.taskray.com, and you'll be able to find a lot of different resources available to you. Things like how do we set up the trial, right? Hey, how do we install the trial? Maybe a step-by-step guide on all things Taskray, from like, hey, I want to know how to do a process builder or flow, or even just configure Taskray, right? So how do I create a project? How do I create a template? Taskray Guide will be a good resource for that. Or finally, if you just want to learn more, want to see what Taskray is up to, we have lots of webinars available for the team. This kind of concludes what I was planning for the demonstration today. I'm going to pause here for any questions. Is there any questions on the chat?
So couple questions, yeah. So one came up. Are you able to share these project outlines with your clients that don't have access to your Salesforce environment?
Yes. So there's two different ways you can share Taskray project or Taskray data with clients. So the first one will be a read-only solution custom link, which I'm happy to demonstrate. But it takes one site license for your whole organization. But what that entails is that you can create a read-only live link of the project. So let's just go ahead and give that example. So if I'm going to look at this flat irons industry project, so I can say, hey, I want to make this project external. I'm going to create an external sharing link, and that will create a read-only link for this specific project. Now, it is worth mentioning you can select certain tasks to be internal only, right? So you can say, hey, these tasks, don't make those available for the customer. You can do that. And the other thing to note, it is read only. So if you are hoping clients to complete tasks or interact with Taskray, they'll have to have kind of a community or Experience Cloud license.
Nice. Yeah, I think I saw, Kyle, you had answered about the ability to export data in CSV format or as a PDF, but I think this takes it to a whole nother level where you can imagine that, shared Slack channel between you and your client as you're working on a project, and you just have this bookmark there where they can just click on it and see the current status of the project. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, as we don't have this license feature, but now I'm going to go back and maybe get it.
Yeah, no, please play around with it.
So Alex, is this a paid add-on, or is this part of the core Taskray product?
So this is part of the core Taskray product. It does take one license, but one license will give you unlimited links, right? So with just one additional site license, you'll be able to create unlimited custom links for.
So that's not only a Taskray license, but then also a Salesforce license as well?
No, it would just be Taskray license, because you can just do a site license. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I had one question, actually. When I think of Taskray, I always kind of think of this as one of the best project management apps that's available on the App Exchange. It seems though that the branding of Taskray now is customer onboarding. So can you kind of speak to that? What is is that just a marketing thing, or is that, how do you see your customers using this? Is it usually customer onboarding, or you see them just like primarily project management?
Yeah, Bill, that's a good question. So we started as actually an agile project manager solution, but we actually, because we're Salesforce native, we noticed most of our customers were using us for post-sale project management. So we started seeing this trend of, hey, because we're Salesforce native, you can kick off a project from anywhere in Salesforce, right? So that's kind of why we started kind of our marketing, and even our product started going towards our direction to just fulfill those post-sale project management needs. So in onboarding can mean anything, right? From installation to implementations to getting customers up and running, whatever that means for each organization. But it is that whatever you call it, it is that post-sale project management use case. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions for Alex? Taskray or otherwise?
I do. Actually, hi, Alex. Bill Haggerty. You mentioned that you started out in sort of an agile product. Can you describe that a little more? And are those agile capabilities still available?
Yeah, and a lot of people do leverage Taskray as agile, specifically for how easy of the UI is the Kanban board. So think of it as, hey, we have us internally, right? For releases, we use Taskray in an agile form. So think of hey, these are sprints, right, that need to move through a backlog, right? So you can configure Taskray to work however is best, right? So instead of holding prioritize start to finish, maybe it is, backlog, sprint, whatever, right? So you could leverage Taskray in that use case. and by leveraging, these tags as you see here. Right now we have the account and the opportunity. You can do things like points or priority status, right? Whatever that looks like. In your agile projects, that Taskray still supports that use case.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. So Alex, if I can ask you then, maybe if you want to stop sharing your screen, we'll jump into a quick walkthrough about how to get this installed in one of your local playgrounds. Before I do that though, what I would like to do just very quickly is plug our LinkedIn group. So if you are not already a part of our LinkedIn group, the Military Trailblazer Office Hours group, I would definitely suggest joining this. I'll put the link here into the chat. Benefit of being a part of this group, anytime or any meetings that we're having, whether it's on our Friday call like today, or even David Navaz's Wednesday call, which is a great resource. I highly recommend joining his call. All the links, all the recordings, everything is going to be shared within this group. And it's a great place that you can, kind of, network with other military trailblazers. So if you haven't joined that, definitely recommend you do that. After each call, in addition to, posting, details about what we went through, we actually post a link to the notes and the recordings to these, and it'll look like this, right? So when you go to the notes of this call, you'll kind of see, the link to the recording, when the event actually happened, and then any slides that we went through, we'll also post in here. And this was the notes from last week's call with Steve Moe. So if you haven't joined that group, definitely join it, because it'll be a great resource to get information as we go forward here. Speaking of how our Wednesday call is a great resource, one of the things that David does that I think is awesome, that I'm going to try to steal from him right now, is he tries to take a picture of everybody in the middle of the call while everybody's still on and hasn't dropped off yet. So if you don't mind doing so, and you can turn on your camera, I would love to get a quick screenshot here of everybody. Now, I guess there's got to be a setting in Zoom where I can actually see like how many people I put on the gallery view, because I don't think I can fit you all on the same screen here. Anybody a Zoom expert here that knows how to get everybody into the screen? Let's see. All right, so maybe I should. Oh,
Bill, I think you're going to have to take multiple screenshots.
I think I just got it. I think I just turned it on. Here we go. All right, so if you can turn on your camera, and I'm going to count down from 7. Now let's go from 3. So 3, 2, 1. Everybody smile. Awesome. Thank you. Now that that's done. All right, so let's get into actually getting this set up. So if you have a playground that you would like to use, go ahead and open that up. I'm going to share my screen, and of course we're recording this, so I can, if you don't have one ready to go, or you just click the create new playground and you're sitting there watching it spin, no worries. We can always go through it again during the recording. So just a quick thing I wanted to show you. So if you ever want to get an app installed into a Trailhead playground, but you don't know how to connect it to the app exchange, or you get that kind of weird, those weird messages as you're trying to authenticate and trailblazer.me and all that kind of stuff. I just want to show you a very quick trick how I do this. So what I'll do is I'll go into the app exchange, and in this case, we're looking for Taskray. So you just type in Taskray, click on the app name that you want here. And then what I'm going to do, assuming that my computer cooperates here, I guess I better paste that image too before I lose it. But what I'm going to do is from the Taskray page, I'm going to click Get It Now. Now this, I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but what I do is, this is my production org. So I click on Install in Production, right? And then this is going to take you directly to the install screen. And we're not going to actually go forward with this. So I'm going to click, I read the terms and conditions, install. And then what I do is on this screen right here, where it's actually going to, actually it'll be this screen. I go in this 400 times a day, and now's the time that I got to authenticate here. So let's do that. Okay, now I got to go through layer 7 of authentication. Hold on. Okay, so now after I've authenticated this, you'll see a green check mark. It'll actually take you to the install screen. And if you've ever installed an App Exchange package before, this should look pretty familiar, right? You got the 3 main options for who do you want to install this for. So we're not actually going to click install here. All I'm going to do is go into the URL, and you can see here that you get this this package version ID, right? It'll always start with 04T. So I'm just going to copy that now. I'm just going to hit copy, and I'm going to hit cancel. right? And just so that I don't do anything stupid, I'm also going to log out of my production org as well. So I'll just click here and go log out. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go into my hands-on orgs. And if you have one that you want to install Taskray in, you can click that launch button right here. And when it launches, it's going to look like this, right? It'll look like this, especially for people named Bill, right? But otherwise, you should see your name there. But there's always an app that's installed in your childhood playground called the Playground Starter app, all right? And if you don't see that right now, just click the app launcher here and just type in Playground Starter, and you'll see it pop up there. All right. Now, with the Playground Starter app, there's this tab here for install a package, right? So you can just go right to that install a package, and then that ID that you just copied, you can paste it in there, right? And then click install. Now, if you don't feel like going through the app exchange part of it, or you don't have a production org, I'm going to put the ID right into the chat here. So in your playground, go to that install a package, and then it'll take you right to this screen if you hit next. And then for me, I'm going to select install for all users. All right. Now, before I click install, let me take a quick pause. Anybody get stuck? Anybody have any questions on how you would actually install this here, or how you get to this point? Okay. All right. Now, what I do anytime I'm installing a package in Salesforce, before I click that install button, I always look at the URL, right? Because multitasking is horrible for me, right? So I'll have my production org, I'll have development orgs, I'll have a customer org that I've logged into, for support, things like that. So I always just want to double check where I'm at before I click that. So right now I'm in Cunning Impala, which is my playground name. So I'm going to go ahead and click install. And now it's going to go through the Taskray install. And you're kind of at the mercy of Salesforce at this point. This could take anywhere from 15 seconds to 15 minutes. You really just never know. But it'll eventually either give you a success message, or it'll say it's taking a long time, and then it'll shoot you an email when it's done. But let me just very quickly stop my share. So any questions there about that, how we get Taskray installed? Okay. All right, so let's see how we're doing here. I'll go back into sharing, and hopefully this will be very quick. Again, you just never know how long this is going to take. So instead of us kind of sitting here staring at this, I'll kind of let this go in the background, and we can open it up for questions, whether it's Taskray related or otherwise. So any questions that anybody wants to go through?
I do have a quick question, Bill. If you've got, it's not related to Taskray specifically,
Sure.
But
yeah, that's fine.
In the playgrounds, when I first started getting on Trailhead and spinning up a playground, and I stopped using it, I assumed that Salesforce would take, and if there was no activity on it for a period of time, that they would wipe it out because there was no need to hold those resources. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Is there any kind of limit on how many playgrounds you can have? And I feel bad about consuming all those resources sometimes.
No, I don't think you should feel bad. I think, for everybody on this call combined with our playground orgs, I don't think it's a drop in the bucket compared to just one single org from some of Salesforce's clients. So I would never.
I can speak on that.
Yeah, go for it, Jeff.
So I think there's a limit, the numbers you can have that you can spin up through the Trailhead UI. I think it's 5, maybe 10.
I want to say 10. Yeah, I was going to say 10. Yeah.
But playgrounds are actually just DE orgs, and we just add a few things on them. Like we add my domain. We had some other stuff under the hood too, but they're just DE orgs, and like DE orgs, they expire within a year. If you don't use them after a year, they get reclaimed after a year.
Okay.
So there's a
so it's just a longer time period than I
yeah.
expected. Okay.
Yep. You'll typically get an email, and the email will not be helpful at all. It'll say, "Hey, we're reclaiming this org," and you're like, "Which org is this?" Because it gives you an org ID. And you're like, "I've got 35 orgs. I don't know which one this is." So it doesn't really help you much. So, but they do send you an email. Or we do an email.
And Steve, just about feeling bad, when I get those emails, even for orgs that I've never touched in like 4 years, when I get the email, I just log in that day and I'm like, all right, that gives me another year. So I don't have to commit to losing that org right then and there. So I have a whole series of orgs I keep kicking the can for. So, all right. Now, Robert, I see that you had a question there.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody else still receives this email or not, but it was the solar bots, one of the trails. To this day, I still receive I think it's a weekly update on the status of my stupid solar bots and temperature of the solar panels or something like that. So I
get that
cannot
same
wait.
one.
I get it
What's that?
too.
I just
Yep.
cracked that yesterday.
Yeah. My gosh. Every time I get that, I'm like, oh, but if you can find your credentials, like if you saved all your credentials along the way for every time you spun up a new playground, you can go in and delete that and actually delete it or change your email or something. But I got rid of it. I don't have a clue what my login credentials were. So even if I could find the playground or the DE org, I wouldn't be able to get in. So
Yeah,
That is funny. I thought I was the only.
Darren.
I thought I was the only one getting that. That's amazing.
I haven't gotten that one. I don't know if I completed that trail, but I feel bad saying this with Alex on the call. But there is a org somewhere where I have Taskray installed, where every single morning I get these same 2 tasks saying that they're overdue, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this task is still overdue. So just yeah.
I get it all the time too, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, with all the orgs that you have for demoing and everything else.
I will say that you can
And now
open
for
a
the
ticket.
super badges, I name them like that so I can see it and go back here and stop the reports.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you actually spin up a new playground, you actually have the option to name it. I usually just take the default name because I like to see what Salesforce comes up with the naming convention. Like I think what was mine today, like Agile and Pala or something like that. But yeah, naming them would probably be a better idea. All right, cool. Any other questions then?
So
Anybody
Bill,
wants
I
to-
have one, but again, I don't know if this is here or not. I for my Rotary Club, I've come up with 3 or 4, 5 different emails, but I'm struggling a little bit with creating the flow to get it to where when they come visit our club for the first time, I put them in there as a lead, how to make it work. So again, that might be a different conversation outside of here, but I need a little bit of help with that.
Yeah,
'cause
so just-
that way I can get up and running.
Just to be clear, so this is where when a lead record is created in your Salesforce org, you want that to automatically generate an email to them saying like,
Yeah, I
welcome.
want to do a whole drip campaign. So I want it to go fire off on a Thursday and then do that for like 5 weeks in a row. And then also have a task for my my membership person to call on Monday because our meetings are on Tuesday. So the email goes off on Thursday. He calls them on Monday. We have a meeting on Tuesday to try to get those people to actually start coming to more meetings. So that's what I
Gotcha.
wanted to do for, I think I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have 4. So just a month.
Okay, so
That's
basically you have 4 emails that you want to send, essentially 1 per week for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Okay, now I have an idea about how to do this, but does anybody have any suggestions before I jump into it? Okay, so what I was going to think is, assuming that you don't have things like Pardot or other kind of like marketing automation, I think maybe the easiest way to do this would be with a record triggered flow on the lead object, where essentially when a lead record is created, we would send an email, or obviously the lead's going to get created. We would send that initial email, and then you can put delays essentially where it would send it every week, for 4 weeks thereafter, just to kind of show what that might look like. I'm going to share my screen, and again, if anybody has any better ideas here, let me know. I'm sure there's parts of like the lead automation that there might be something better, or something to do this, but kind of in the flows. So you know what they say when you're holding a hammer. Let's see. So go into our flow screen here, and of course everything is taking its time. I'm going to do a record triggered flow. Let's see if this works here. So we'll do freeform. All right. So when a lead record is created, so we'll say lead is created. We're going to do this, the after version of this. I like it better if they said before and after, but I kind of get why they put that there. We're going to say do it after. And then you can add to this thing here. It says add scheduled paths, right? So what you can do is you can say, okay, we're going to have a scheduled path here for 1 week later.
Bill,
Yes.
can I, it says, I'm trying to record you doing what you're doing. It says I have to ask you for permission to record.
I'm recording the whole thing, so I can share
Okay,
the
never
link
mind.
afterwards. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome.
So for this, I'm going to say 1 week later. Time source is going to be when the lead is created, and we're going to say the offset is going to be 7 days, I guess we can do here. 7 days after the lead is created. I have no idea what this is, batch size. Okay, yeah, so I don't think in your particular case, you're going to have to worry about the batch size. But in theory then, when we create that, you can put any kind of action that you want, including some kind of send email action. So if I go in here and just do send email, I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of things in here that I don't have. So send 1 week later email, and description. Hi, buddy. I don't even know if I can do this, but welcome. So I'm just trying to throw in some stuff here. So let's just assume that you had all these things in here. An email address. I'll put mine in here. resourceheroapp.com, and I will copy this and paste this into the chat as well in case anybody has any questions after the call. Feel free to reach out to me. In any case, you would structure this, create the cool looking email that you would want. And then if we hit done here, when we go to connect it to the start block, then it's going to ask you which one you want to connect it to. We're going to connect that to the 1 week later, right? So then in theory, you should then also be able to go in here. And if we edit the scheduled paths, you can actually add another one here for 2 weeks later. Same thing from when the lead is created, 14 days or days after. The other options here, days after, days before, hours, and minutes. Minutes, that's pretty slick, where you can wait a few minutes.
So how would you, like this part I get, how would you add the action, off of the action, the first action, if I want to make a phone call X number of days after that email goes out, would I just put that underneath that action as well?
Yeah, so basically one way you could do this is you can say that, so 1 week later, it's going to send that email. But if you also wanted to create a task for, there's probably an action to do this too. Let's see, so task, create task. Yeah, create new task. Yeah, so there's an action for that. I was just going to use a create records, but either way, I think it would work fine. But you can say, okay, create follow-up task. You can relate it to, and this is something that we learned last week, where when you're creating this, whatever the lead that started it is going to have that variable, that $sign record. So we're going to link this task to the lead's ID. All right, and then again for the description, do something. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the description. I'll put that for the subject. So do something. You can link this to a particular user. Look at a user field that's on the lead, however you would want to kind of link it to them. And then, of course, you can put a due date here as well. The due date, just for simplicity, I might just select that, the due date is going to be the current date, meaning that whenever this piece is executing, it's going to run that. It's going to use that as the due date. But, you can put, different formulas there, some kind of logic, some other kind of thing on the task or the lead itself. But in any case, you send the email and then just kind of connect that, if I can, right there. So 1 week after the lead is created, it's going to send the email and then create that follow-up task for whoever you want. So between, these, creating all your different actions and then having whatever number of scheduled paths that you want, you have a path for what's going to happen right as the lead is created. And then you can create any number. Well, I'm sure there's a limit number, but you can create many different scheduled paths for 1 day after, 7 days after, 14 days after, whatever you need. So I think without any additional add-ins or Marketing Cloud or Pardot or any App Exchange apps, I think that might be a way that you can do it natively and really build some complex logic based on exactly how you want that to work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on that, or anybody else have a kind of a different way that they might tackle that? Okay. All right, cool. And like I said, Anthony, I'll make sure that the recording is shared so that if you want to kind of walk through that again, you can.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? I see there might be something in the chat here. Trying to use the package ID and the link to install Taskray. What segment in the URL is it? It's always going to be the one that starts with the 04T. I could be wrong here, but I believe 04T is the prefix for a package version ID. So you're installing a very particular version of Taskray with that 04T that's there. And yes, I see, looks like in that link that was there, we had a 3D that was in the beginning there. You chop off and then you get the 04T ID. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So anything else related to anything that we've talked about, or just in general? Any other questions that anybody wants to go through?
Yeah. Hey, Bill, I have a question for you.
Sure, Tommy.
And it's one of your favorites too. It's on the developer side. So, so my question is kind of like all around like error handling, right? So while you're programming, I think the rule of thumb is, anytime you do like a DML call outs or anything like that, that's where you want to put your error handling process at, like you try catch statements, all those kind of things. But for you, or do you have anything other specific that's like kind of helps with error handling as a programmer, as a developer, that you should kind of keep in mind, like the kind of do's and don'ts about that?
Again, I'll give you kind of my take on this, and then we can open it up for other comments as well. I think one of the biggest things, and let me just see if I can pull this up real quick. Whenever I am doing any kind of DML or anything where I'm trying to write to the database, I want to make sure that I'm including try catch blocks, right? So basically you try to insert a record, and if it fails, you can tell it what to do once it fails. So it just doesn't fail with an ugly looking error message that the user is going to get via email. So the try catch blocks, if that's not something you're familiar with, I would definitely check that out. Getting a little bit more into the weeds, one of the other things that we do, especially because we're a managed package, and it's not just debug logs that we're looking at within our own org. We have many customer orgs that we have to kind of address. Whenever we have a failure in that catch block, we're actually writing like a stack trace into a table that's part of our package. So if somebody has a failure, I can always go back and say, okay, what happened? And we can see the full kind of stack trace of, on this line at this time, through this error. It's not perfect. And sometimes you don't capture everything that you need, but most of the time it's enough just to get you started. So again, we do that with, it's a dedicated custom object where it has, no links to other objects, no dependencies, no triggering events. It's just, we put in the time that it happened, the user that was, running that logic, and then just a dump of the stack trace. And the stack trace part of that, and again, I'm kind of getting under the first layer of dirt here as we go through this, but when we talk about a stack trace, we basically have a framework set up in our app where every time you're going to a different level or you're going to a different place within the application, we're kind of maintaining that. Like there's a variable where we maintain all the different levels and all the different methods and functions that we're in. So it's like this big string that it keeps adding on to. And then when there's an error, it basically writes that string to that debug log. So I would love to schedule a time when we can kind of dork out on that. And I can, anybody else that wants to be invited, we can definitely include them. But that's essentially like the two main things that we'll do. And I see, Jeff, you might have a thought there.
I want first thing comment, like what you just said about the debug log, your own customized debug. That's fantastic. We did that with Trail Tracker too, same thing. But we don't do stack. We just do like kind of like general line numbers like that. So, but the only problem with that is if you start filling up that custom object with all these records, and then customers are paying for space. But another thing we want to look at is DML statements or database transaction statements. So you can do it, you can do them, and you can say, I'm going to insert these records, but use a DML statement, and you can have it specify if either all of them will commit or partial commit. And then you can inspect the ones that don't commit. You get a collection back, and you can actually iterate that collection and figure out why each one of those records don't commit. So you got to look at that too. We use that quite a bit to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, no, just to add to that one thing, as far as like the data, now you really hope that you're not causing so many errors that you're filling up a person's database. That's one thing. But the other thing, the way that we can actually keep track of that, for anybody that, is either working for an ISV partner or, that might be something that you want to do in the future, ISV partners or Salesforce partners that have apps on the App Exchange, you get access to, they call it, I think it's App Analytics. I think they just changed the branding of it. But essentially, from within my Salesforce org, I can run this kind of database query, and I can get information about every one of my subscribers, including how many records of each one of my objects that they have. So that's something that we keep a pretty close eye on, where, every week we kind of look at that list and say, okay, what customers have been logging, error records. If they have one or two, that might not be something that we jump on right away. But if we see a customer that starts getting, 10, 15, 20 different, error logs, we're like, okay, they changed something broke. We proactively then reach out to them and say like, hey, what's going on? We're seeing all these errors. Let's set up a call where we can kind of troubleshoot it. So you can, as an ISV partner, we can get some visibility into that, so we can see who's throwing errors.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
Yeah, Tommy, I hope that answers your question. Like I said, I think that's that might be a whole another hour conversation in and of itself, error handling for Apex development.
For sure. Yeah. If I have any more questions, I'll probably just set up a one-on-one with you if that's okay.
Cool. Okay. I think just one other thing that I was playing with last night, I'll just bring this up. I don't know if this would be relevant for error handling, but using the REST API, I was playing with Stripe and webhooks and all this kind of stuff where you can move data in and out of Salesforce. I thought it'd be interesting in that error handling process or logging a stack trace if there was somehow to send that error to to a repository somewhere. I think that would be kind of cool, but I don't know if that would cause other problems, but something to look into. It's on my list. Okay, so any other questions on any topic that anybody wanted to go through? Okay. Well, hearing no questions, I'm going to hang out for a little while in case anybody was shy and didn't want to bring it up in the group. But otherwise, I really appreciate everybody joining. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll catch up next week.
And thanks everyone for having me. It was great meeting you all.
Oh my God, how did I not thank you, Alex? Good Lord. Alex, thank you so much for presenting today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Thanks for having me. We'll keep in touch.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks all.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Bill.
I'm going to edit this in post to make sure I thank you appropriately.